Hello and welcome to Ingression, the only series that gives you the best tips, tricks, and information on the game that we all love, Ingress. I, of course, am your lovable, enlightened instructor, Incredible Hulk. On today's episode, we're going to be covering Pro Tips 2. That's right, Pro Tips Dose. It's already time for another lesson. In Pro Tips 1, we taught you how to ingress like a champ, but we want to bring you some more good tips that some agents didn't already know to make sure that you can become an even better player in case you didn't know this. Even for pro players, there'll probably be a thing or two that hopefully you can glean from this and maybe share with some other players as well. So to start right off with, we've all had that time where we've accidentally dropped an important item. Maybe it's a capsule filled with ADAs and we're freaking out. It's like, how am I gonna get that back? Because it's sitting right on top of a portal, and whenever I click on it, it clicks on the portal instead of the item that I'm trying to pick up. And it seems like you're never gonna get it back. It seems like you're gonna have to use a virus in order to get it and destroy the portal. Well, as more experienced agents usually know, if you want to get that item back, if you see like with the item where it's sitting on top of it right there, don't click on the item. That's the secret. You want to click right next to the item, just a little bit away from it. It will select the item instead of the portal. It's that simple to get it back. You've got your item back. It's always surprises me some people still don't know about that one, but it's really not something that's common knowledge beyond, I'd say, probably about half of agents know it, half of them don't. So just click right next to the item. So that is pro tip number 1. Now moving on to pro tip number 2, another thing dealing with location. So we spoke about how you can toggle your Wi-Fi signal or your airplane signal on and off in order to reset your modem and all your antennas on your phone in pro tip number 1. But let's say that you're inside of a building, which happens to me all the time, and you're by where a portal should be, but the GPS can get enough of a lock to be like, oh, you can play the game, but it's a little bit of a jerk, and it's like, yeah, but you're 10 meters away from the portal. There's a pretty easy way to usually be able to fix that, and that is to go up into your little settings area, your location area on Android, on iPhone. I don't know how to do this, sorry, iTards. And you just want to go ahead and select and change your accuracy settings from the high accuracy down to battery saving or medium accuracy. This is going to switch it from using all of the different things available to it to only Wi-Fi networks and your mobile location. So if there's a Wi-Fi network in the area, connect to that Wi-Fi network and it should hopefully bounce you around to where you should be. Once again, this is not spoofing. This is just getting you to the correct location where you really are by changing the methodology that Ingress is using the actual location data at. So just switching it to medium accuracy, sometimes bumping it back and forth between medium and high will eventually get you to the right location where you actually are. It's that simple. Another thing in regards to location, pro tip number 3, let's say that there's an agent in visiting from out of town and you guys are going out, you're having fun, you're rolling around, you're blasting portals, everything like that. He mentions that he has this really cool key to this one thing and you're like, oh, that's so cool, I wish I could have that. And he's like, well, I'm not going to give that to you, that's my only key to the ship Niantic. Or maybe you trade him some rare keys like I did to get that Niantic key ship. Well, there's one thing you can do with that agent though, no matter what. Trade them for the keys that are on the edge of their town facing towards your town that are just common keys that they're not going to use, and make sure they get the keys on the edge of your town that's facing towards their town. So that way if you guys need to, you have links that you can throw back and forth between your two towns. Even if it's pretty far, you can use some link amps. So let's say that I was a player and I lived in Portland and I had a player visiting from Boise. I want to get the keys to the west of Boise and I would try to make sure he had the keys to the east of Portland. That way there's not much in between the two. There's some smaller towns, but hopefully if we need to toss a blocking link, if we want to coordinate for a field, we've got the keys that are the easiest to use. So while an agent is in from out of town, get those keys that are common to them and they're more than willing to give up to you in order to coordinate with them. So that way in the future you can toss links to their town if necessary because you need a blocking link, or maybe there's a shard artifact going on that you have to deal with the shard effect. So that's, make sure to get those keys. And let's say you get those keys with pro tip number 4 and you want to make sure that you don't lose them. Like we taught you that 3-finger roll, and you don't want to accidentally end up dropping that key while you're doing the 3-finger roll. Very quick, very easy. Whatever item you want to make sure you do not lose, especially keys, just toss it in a capsule. When it's in a capsule, it's out of your inventory, so not only can you hack another key for that portal, but also you can't accidentally drop it. You can drop the entire capsule. That can happen. Don't drop that capsule, though. But you're not going to accidentally drop that key or recycle that key. So any key that is very important to you, toss it in the capsule. If you need to recharge it, just pull it out to recharge that key, then toss it right back in there. But that way you'll make sure you always keep those important keys. That's the best way to make sure you do not lose a key. Now, another way you can lose a key and goes on to tip number 5, pro tip number 5. Let's say that you are tossing links off from a portal. We've always seen it where you're about to click the link button, or maybe you just clicked it and you didn't realize that after that little key thing popped up and you selected the key you wanted, then it jumped to another key randomly at the end because it's like, oh, you can link to this one too. And you're starting, oh my goodness, no, everyone's gonna hate me. That's a bad blocking link. We're in the middle of a big fielding activity. What am I gonna do? There is a simple way around that as well. So you'll notice on that thing, there's that little key drawer there with the spinning carousel of keys. there is the key icon. Once you have selected the portal that you want to link to, just hit that key icon. It will close that key drawer and single down onto that one portal that you're trying to link to. And this will also make sure that you have the right portal that you are linking to as well. So just close that key drawer if you don't need it. Just don't look at those spare keys, get them out of the way, and link to the correct portal instead. Now let's say conversely on pro tip number 6, that you do not want a portal to be linked from. There's actually no way to 100% guarantee this, but the best way possible that I have found to make sure another player doesn't accidentally link to a portal when you're trying to make sure that maybe you're setting up a big field or something and you aided or Jarvis the portal, and then you want to make sure someone doesn't accidentally throw that exact same link again. Make sure you take over that portal first of all. Someone from another faction is could mess it up if you don't. And then another thing that you can do is when you deploy, don't deploy just one resonator, because if you deploy one resonator, maybe someone will be driving by and they'll think, oh hey, that person just capped the portal, they didn't have time, I'm gonna go ahead and fill it out, and then it can accidentally get linked to. I've had that happen to me in major fielding operations, and it's very frustrating. But if you do a deployment of not one, but instead you do 7 out of 8 resonators, not a full 8, but 7 out of 8, someone driving by probably isn't going to notice the one missing quite so quickly, and it's not going to be able to be linked to. So that is your best bet. Only deploy 7 resonators if you don't want the portal to be linked to. It doesn't guarantee it won't be linked to, but it does lower the odds a lot. And if you happen to see something that's kind of in a cleared out area that only has 7 resonators on it, and they're not like in a sporadic thing, like you can tell someone was driving by because there's different deploy ranges, they're all perfectly deployed out of 7. Probably, something like this, possibly. I doubt the person was actually trying to do this, but, for sake, probably don't fill that out unless it is, 1 8 resonator away from being an 8. Then maybe fill that out just for the common courtesy. But otherwise, probably leave that one alone and also just deploy the 7 instead of 8. Now, speaking of portals, if you want to make sure that you are keeping a portal, maybe it's something that's somewhat important to you, maybe it's, your grandmother's grave, and you want to keep it pretty safe, but at the same point in time, you only kind of liked your grandma, so you don't want to waste a couple AXA shields on her, and her gravestone, which, I mean, you could be a better grandchild, but if, let's say that you're not as good of a grandchild as some of us are, then one way that you're probably thinking, oh, maybe I'll use 2 common shields instead of a very rare, because they're the exact same mitigation factor, and that way I'm not wasting rare items. There is that point. It's going to be the same mitigation between 2 commons and a very rare. But one thing that most people don't think about, shields actually have another statistic involved with the shields, not just how much of the attack they stop. It is called stickiness. Stickiness determines how long that shield is going to stay on the portal when it's being attacked, because they just randomly pop off. You've probably seen that. You're attacking and you see that little plume thing like there, and you'll see that means a shield or a mod was knocked off. You'll see the mod fly up, and that means it was knocked off. So a shield that is of a higher level, that's of a rare or a very rare or an Axis shield, has more stickiness. It's going to stay on that portal longer. So if you're thinking about tossing 2 commons on it, so far the portal statistics that we have say that commons have a 0 stickiness level, which means they will pop off relatively very, very easily. Where if you jump up to a rare portal shield, it's going to have what's known as a stickiness, according to the server stats, of 150,000. A very rare is going to have 450,000. And an AXA is going to have 800,000. So an AXA is actually going to be almost 5.5 times harder to knock off than a rare shield. So at least deploy 2 rares on there. It'll stay on there longer, along with providing that extra damage mitigation on top of it, but it'll stay a lot longer. Now, this next one I'm going to talk about, this next pro tip, is one that I'm sure a lot of people are going to initially go, what's up with that? But then when you think about it, it does actually make sense. So, and that is, don't recycle your low-level weapons unless you are almost item capped. Now, I know you've probably talked to a bunch of players that have said, hey, you're level 8, why do you still have level 1 weapons? There's absolutely no reason for that. What do you think you're going to do, just annoy someone all day long, just making notifications pop up on their thing? Well, that is one useful thing for it. But actually, even more useful than just annoying people by firing off level 1 resonators at someone that you hate, or that you're frenemies with, is to use those to knock off the shields. As we mentioned earlier, that entire shield stickiness thing. The shields have different levels of stickiness, sure, but they can be knocked off by XMPs of any level whatsoever. So why would you waste a level 8 weapon trying to knock off shields? Granted, a level 1, 2, 3, 4, from what we've seen so far, nothing official from Niantic, doesn't seem to knock off a shield quite as fast. But if you're going to recycle it, or if you're going to be wasting 8s on a shield, why not use those 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s to go ahead and knock those shields off, then do your strong attacks with your 8s to make sure you're doing it the most efficient way, and you're not just wasting a bunch of those precious level 8 XMP bursters. So just keep those lower level ones, unless of course you're close to item cap. Then it's better to have those level 8s versus those low levels. So unless you're close to item cap, don't recycle those low level weapons. They will actually be useful in some capacity on the portals that have shields on there. Now lastly, if you do want to keep a portal, this is going to be another thing that sounds contradictory at first, but the last pro tip is, if you are trying to keep a portal and someone is attacking it, maybe it is your guardian portal and you want to make sure it's okay, don't recharge all of the resonators. That's right, don't recharge all the resonators. The key word there is all of them. Because even with a quick recharge, you are not going to be able to keep up with a bunch of level 8 attacks. However, if you select just one resonator, your highest level resonator on that portal, and recharge just that resonator, it's going to increase your chances, because the quick recharge will be able to fill the entire thing no matter what. If you have a level 8 portal, you're trying to quick recharge, you're going to have to use your entire XM bar at least 2 times, even if you're level 16. If you're a lower level, you're using your XM bar 4 or 5 times, and you have to go back in for a power cube, and that's going to take time away from recharging. But if you recharge just one resonator, it's going to make sure that you can hold that portal longer. And if you're in a situation where you need to keep a link up, maybe perhaps you're in an anomaly and you have 3 players, each just select one resonator, and then they keep recharging those 3, you can keep a link up a lot easier that way as well. So once again, with pro tips 2, just make sure that if you want to grab an item that's on a portal, don't click directly on the portal, click close to it. If you do need to correct your location inside of a building, switch to a medium accuracy setting, and hopefully that'll bump you to the right location. And make sure that when agents are in town that you do trade keys with them that are on the edge of their town, closest to your town. They get the keys on the closest to yours, so it's going to help in the long term for you guys to be able to coordinate back and forth together. It's just planning ahead for your Ingress future. And if you want to make sure you don't lose those keys, put them in a capsule, and if you want to make sure you don't accidentally link to them, make sure to close that key drawer after you've selected the portal that you want to link to. If you want to make sure people don't link to a portal, your best bet is to deploy only 7 resonators on it. And if you don't want to keep a portal, remember shield stickiness, common 0, think of basically a rare as 15, very rare as 45, and an AXA as 80 on like a stickiness level. So that 0, 15, 45, 80 on stickiness, keep that in mind when you're deploying shields as well. And then if you do want to knock those shields off, keep those level weapons, the lower level weapons, don't recycle them quite so early. Make sure you hold on to them so they can knock off the shields for you instead of wasting your level 8 bursters. And if you're trying to keep that same portal that someone's attacking and they've knocked all the shields off, just select one of those resonators and recharge that resonator alone to make sure that you can hold that portal and the other person won't be able to take it over. So, we've covered a lot of good tips here. I actually want to give a big shout out, first of all, to every single person that watches these videos. When I started making these, the thought was just to make it for the local community, and now we have just passed over 1,000 agents helped with the very first video in less than a month because you guys have shared this out to your communities. Thank you so much. Please keep sharing these videos, regardless of any sort of faction bias, so we can all become better ingressors and have better people that we're playing against, so it becomes even more fun. And if you, of course, as always, want to make sure that you have the best tips, tricks, and information yourself, make sure to just click that subscribe button right there. I don't care which faction you're with, I don't care what level you are, you can click the subscribe button, you'll get the exact same tips and tricks even faster than everyone else, because you'll be the first person notified when a new video comes out with a new set of pro tips or a new set of fielding tips as well. So once again, thank you so much for watching. I am your Incredible Hulk instructor. The only lesson, the only challenge I have for this lesson is going to be for you guys to list your pro tips below. So comment your pro tips that I haven't covered in any of these previous videos. If I include them in a future video, you will get a shout out and a mention that you're the person that gave this pro tip. But to help make everyone a better player, comment all of your different pro tips down below, and hopefully they'll pop up in a future episode if they're not just a common knowledge thing. Once again, I'm Incredible Hulk. Thank you for watching. Go have fun, play, and share your pro tips.